around the corner, high ball, Hipwood. Cameron from the side, Quainer did well. Archie. McCarthy's in a good spot here. Stretches, front on contact, not there. Cameron around the corner, he is deadly. Archie, lovely turnaround handball. Rayner's got complete control. And Brisbane lead by 2 goals. Long deep ball, Danaher over his shoulder. He pulled it straight over the top. Oh, the jumper's gone. The final one was the neck brace, and look at this. We've got a top end nude out there in Robinson. McCluggage on the left, brings it back on the right. Rayner around one, right foot snap, and didn't even look. He didn't even look, he just kicked it around the corner.
Hipwood's got good wheels, give it to Charlie. Has a bounce himself and makes 100% sure.
And now Fletcher, can he mop it up with a goal? It deserves one, and it got one.
Big Melbourne statement made by the Brisbane Lions.
The Brisbane Lions fancast back for another week after a huge win against the first place Pies on Friday night down at Marvel Stadium. The game where all the pressure was on the Lions in the build-up. No De Goey, no Dacos, no more, no Bobby Hill. No excuses for the Lions, and it really paves the way for us to not have to leave Brisbane until the final day in September, should we do things properly, as David King has put it throughout the week. It's JB and Patrick to discuss the round 23 game against the Pies, where they had something for everyone, including the ladies. Dev Rob gained an extra 25,000 Instagram followers after his shenanigans on Friday night. But more importantly, a comprehensive win, a full team performance across a full 4 quarters. Not much more you can ask from the Lions on that one, is there, Pat?
No, not at all. Yeah, it was interesting. Sort of the first question posed to Fagan and also the Fly in the press conferences was sort of like, you'd probably like for it to be a bit less high scoring, wouldn't you? And they're both sort of like, yeah, but I don't think anyone really wants that. To see a game, both teams hitting 100 points was pretty fun. Got to say, pretty fun.
Certainly was. Well, I mean, we will get into the nitty-gritty of the game as we go on, obviously. But, I mean, the most important thing for me, and we discussed this just before we hit record, was they came at us hard in the third quarter and put on 4 goals in under 20 possessions or something silly like that. Pendlebury and Mason Cox really turned it on. And I thought, oh no, huge momentum shift. This is where we have rolled over and let it happen before, but we steeled ourselves and managed to produce probably the best fourth quarter we have in quite a while. It's been an issue for us over the last month or so good to see that happen. Obviously, Gunston comes out. We sort of forecast the changes more or less spot on. Gunston comes out, in comes Kitty, out goes Pryor, in comes Jasper Fletcher into the starting 22, and your mate JL the sub.
My mate JL the sub. That was a surprise. It was a surprise. We all kind of were like, yeah, well, contingency is going to be the case. And I said, I have to ask for just general forgiveness this episode because I've just come back from away and my cat is being absolutely bonkers and running around. He wants everything to do with anything that, is happening. So he's been a bit lonely. I sort of said on the Discord, the way we use the sub, it sort of doesn't really matter if it's Fort because we're not really using it particularly well anyway. So it might as well be a contingency plan. As it was, different sort of contingency plan. Real big shame for Calamachi, who was like a hot start, made Dacos strong the wrong way. I think we were talking we've both had coccyx injuries or, tailbone crushes. And they are just about the worst thing you can sort of do that isn't die or break your leg through your face or something.
Yeah, it's not a fun one. I'm not sure, we don't really know exactly what the ins and outs of that injury were. It seemed to be more lower back, than they did sort of tape him around the waist and tried to get him back out there, but he was useless when he went out there. He just could not move at all, so had to get him off. But in that first quarter from him, 2 goals, but equally as impressive for me was the handball that set up that Rayner goal. Just sort of over the shoulder, sort of quick turnaround, got Rayner into space. That's the sort of stuff that stands out as well. So, wow. It sucks for him because he just cannot catch a break, whether it's concussion or some sort of injury now. It looks like it would have been painful, that sort of tunnelling thing. And obviously it happened to Nathan Murphy later on in the game as well. But yeah, great
Good
stuff.
riddance, I say. Good riddance.
I thought of you when I saw that happen.
We all know how I feel about Murphy, but I think Kalachi had a pretty hot start, and then Johnny Noble kind of ran through him for their first of the night, and I think he took that personally. So he wasn't happy with that effort, and so I think one thing that sort of has characterized him, as much as anything, has been his hardness at the ball and stuff like that. So he was amazing, and for me, regardless of, wheel him out in a wheelchair, but unless he's severely hindered, he comes back. Whether it's qualifying final, whether it's prelim final, I don't care. He's coming back.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely starting 22 when we've got everyone available. Fags touched on it pre-game as well, and a quick shout out to Fags in the lead up the Fox sort of pre-game broadcast. They interviewed both coaches and they had Fags on, and he said exactly what you said as well. That JL was the sub as insurance for the midfield because, as Dunks has admitted, as Chocky admitted on 360 throughout the week, and now Fags sort of confirmed that he wasn't happy. None of them have been happy with the way the midfield's been performing over the last couple of weeks, and they had JL as a bit of insurance there just in case, or maybe as some sort of extra motivation as well. Not that I think he's ever going to sub off Dunks or Chocky, but yeah, quick shout out to Fags, who, huge amount of talk about this game. Huge amount of talk about this game and what it means for us and how it sets us up for top 2, qualifying final and prelim final at home, and everyone's sort of forecasting 6 weeks in advance. But you could tell that he was wearing the BCNA beanie in the pre-game interview as well, and sort of made mention to talk about it. He wore it again in the post-game interview as well, and I know he mentioned that he wants to support that cause, even though it wasn't our game that was directly involved. It was the Melbourne Hawthorn game, the Pink Lady. But I know, because Jared Berry's mum was lost to breast cancer, he sort of makes the effort to bring attention to that as well. And when all the focus has been on the importance of this game, he's got his mind elsewhere as well, which I think is a pretty nice little thing.
I suppose with his previous history with Melbourne and Hawthorn as well. So I did notice that, and he looked pretty wintered up, which I quite liked. So I wished I were him.
A bit of a shootout in the first quarter. We got the first 2 goals on the board. Always a good start to get a goal on the board really nice and early. The matchups, I don't think anyone expected Archie to run with Dacos. I thought that role might go to Bez. I think most people sort of thought Bez might get that role in Dacos, and it did swap around quite a bit. And Mitchell sort of played a quasi-negating role on Chocky in the middle as well. That
went well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Tom Mitchell, oh man, what a weird egg-like creature. Like if he was in my team, I would probably complain about him a lot, because he just seems like a bit of a JL that won a Brownlow. So
yeah, you're not half wrong there as well. The Quaynor and Charlie Cameron matchup, obviously that's a matchup that Charlie's got the Chockies in the last couple of meetings, 6 goals back in round 4 or whatever it was. And now,
last 80,000 years, he's had the chocolates. So
well,
it is odd. It is funny to see that team, and particularly off halfback, because they talked about not having Nick Dacos there, and they're like, well, we've got Johnny Noble and we've got Isaac Quaynor and stuff. It's like, man, they got towelled and they got made to look pretty average. So small forwards, man, if they're working for you, and just to kind of go back, we did stick with the 2 talls, as I think a lot of people were hoping, rather than the 3. And it is interesting how much that's just kind of opened up the forward line and allowed, I think as a team, 1-on-1 across the board, we're very good.
Yep.
Whether it's defensively, particularly ahead and behind the ball. So if we can get 1-on-1s with those guys, I spoke about it before, any one of Link, Cameron and Rayner, they can all take overhead marks and stuff like that. So if they're paired up on a smaller guy, they're a viable marking target out of a stoppage or a centre stoppage in this new sort of 6-6-6 era. So I'm kind of backing a lot of our players 1-on-1, and the intensity that they brought in that forward half was just it was really, really good to see, and to see the level of open up and Hipwood being able to kind of roam forward and stuff like that. Just it looked right. It didn't look stifled. It didn't look cluttered. It didn't look choked. Because a lot of times when we've had sort of that extra player, it has looked a bit like there's no space to kick the ball. So, a lot of people have been critical of the Gunston experience. I've been trying to give it a bit of slack, but I think I have to eat my words here a little bit.
I think this is the setup moving forward. The two tall forwards. Not only did it open up that forward line, like you said, and give Charlie all the space to run into, but how good of a game did Cam Rayner have? Like, he had so much impact, and especially forward to centre as well. Like, he had some good moments over the last couple of weeks, don't get me wrong, especially in that Freo game. He stood up in some crunch moments, but that's been his best game in a while. Probably since the last time we played Collingwood, where he put 4 through. So I think that has to be the setup moving forward, the two tall forwards. I know it's been a point of discussion anytime anyone talks about the Lions, and I think most fans are in agreement now, and I think Fague saw the evidence, 6 weeks ago, whenever it was. But I think we'd all be pretty disappointed if it works again for the next however many weeks, and then we get to a prelim or a grand final, and then Gunston comes back in.
Yeah, I would find that very difficult.
I think we all would.
Yeah, I'd find it very difficult, and I'd find it to be a bit of an oversight to do that. But I mean, I think that Gunston's got quality. I think he's looked just generally not himself this season. And I mean, last week it kind of came out it was an MCL, so he's looking at 4 weeks. You know, he could have a really good season next year to kind of end his career on, and I would kind of like him to do that, because I think his season this year is not really reflective at all of who he's been as a player. So, you know, I'd like to see him be able to do that next year, and I'm glad it wasn't an ACL, because had it been an ACL, you're probably looking at him retiring. So
yeah, I'd say so.
But that is for next year to worry about, in my opinion. A bit like Daniel Rich. If Daniel Rich sticks around, which I don't know whether he will,
I doubt it. Well, I mean, we've got a question about Richie a little bit later on we'll get to, but yeah, I think we've probably seen the last of Richie, unfortunately. The ruck battle, I think Oscar was probably well on top when it was Darcy Cameron, but once Mason Cox came on, it really shook things up.
It was odd to see us having like one ruckman get kind of tag teamed. Like, that doesn't happen very often. Normally, you know, traditionally it had been us doing that to other teams, between sort of him and Ford, or him and Steph Martin and stuff like that, trying to get the better of it. But yeah, the Cyclops was pretty good.
He was really good. Him and Pendlebury, as I sort of mentioned in that third quarter. Pendlebury was probably close to best on ground across the two teams. He was probably the most influential, especially in that third quarter. That was vintage Pendlebury.
Well, the third quarter, to see him running away from stoppage, which was something that was highlighted that he was unable to do, whether that was our guys playing off the back shoulder, knowing that they'd be able to get that level of speed from him, or maybe it was kind of like a, you know, run faster. He's got the sense of meat or whatever, so he was being able to run away from some of our quicker players. But he rolled back the years, and his left foot was just like, you know, him and Kadeen Coleman. Like, I want to talk about Kadeen Coleman's left foot later on, but like, they're just inside 50 kicks, so good.
Yeah, and Zorko actually put Zorko. I think I heard somewhere throughout the week that he was number one in the AFL about, you know, kicking efficiency inside 50 as well. So, and I think McCluggage is up there as well, sort of top 5, top 10. So, good signs. I mean, that bullet he threw in that ended up with the Cameron mark could have very easily ended up in a link mark as well in that one-on-one. So, you know, Zorko, for all his foibles, he does still do some good things, some important things that not too many else can do.
No, and I think it's just a general collective of just wanting him to kind of focus on the game at hand.
Yes.
And let his talent do the talking. Particularly, you know, you don't have to kind of play as your pantomime self. So, you know, that is what it is with him, and will be what it is until it isn't. So that's my level of philosophy on a Monday morning.
Get in touch anytime. Shoot us an email at blfancast@gmail.com or join the Discord.
There were sort of tiers of players, because, you know, we can sort of do the same thing that Fox Footy or Channel 7 did, and, you know, talk about Neil, talk about Dunkley, talk about, you know, Charlie Cameron. It's like, I mean, we all saw what they did. Like, that was Neil's best game in probably a 6-week stretch. And sort of the first time I think we've seen him burst out of stoppage. Dunkley, I felt like, kept it more simple.
Yeah.
Sort of played the way he was facing, and that sort of old trope. But sort of the players underneath that would probably, you know, those three would probably be your best three on ground. I mean, they probably might or might not be. For me, who cares? But like Coleman, Rayner, McCluggage, Hipwood, Dev Rob, Archie, like just the kind of the engine room of the team just played. They all sort of almost played their best game. It was interesting to see that, particularly when we've had quite a few games where not everyone, like a lot of our players have not played very well at all.
Yeah, as I said, it was a full team performance. There's probably only one person in the team that I thought had a below par game, and that was Jack Payne. I think that was probably his worst game, probably for the season, if not at least for a while. He just seemed a yard off the pace, whether it was McStay or Myercheck. It just didn't seem to impact contests or take any intercepts the way we know he can. So it's probably his quieter game. Only finished with the 3 kicks.
Yeah, it was an odd one to look at that, but then it's hard because you sort of wonder when you're only viewing it on the broadcast, you're kind of not seeing what the leading patterns are and whether or not they're kind of split Myercheck and McStay, keeping them aside. Plus also like Myercheck and McStay have this weird kind of like, they look kind of bony. Like if you were going to like put body on them, it would like hurt like a echidna or something like that. So maybe he just was like, if I go close to McStay, he's going to get me with the elbow and like the ribs. Or Myercheck is like the weird, skinniest, angular looking weirdo. It's not really a worry.
No, and I don't think we'll see a game like that from Payne again. And to be fair, like both Dan McStay and Myercheck are both sort of crafty forwards. They've got, good footy brains. Jack Payne not so much high on the footy IQ, but great athleticism, and he's picking that sort of stuff up as his career progresses, as we've seen. But yeah, I think they sort of got the better of him over the weekend, and Harris still managed to have a good game. Frog had a great game. Yeah, it was just a great team performance, as I've mentioned.
Moment of the first half, surely got to be Tom Mitchell with the ball, Dev Rob with the tackle.
Yeah.
And off comes the top.
My goodness.
Courtesy of Braden Maynard. And then he copped a double fist from, I think, Bo McCreary as well. Odd to see a guy get paid a free kick, then his shirt ripped off, then a guy double punching him in the back. But, goal assist from that. That was in the second quarter, I believe. Danaher got one over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And, it was a bit of a soap opera from there.
It certainly was. Didn't BT jump on that like a giddy schoolgirl? My goodness. And fair enough too. Like as it's been pointed out by anyone that's seen the footage, yeah, if you had a rig like that, of course you'd try and get it out. And when it happens by lucky accident, well, you're gonna try and make the most of it. It got to the point though where his Guernsey was hanging on by a thread. And he copped another tackle, got done for holding the ball, which, yeah. And then he just turned.
Maybe had he not been wearing a cape at the time,
yeah.
It might not have been quite as like pull focus. I thought it was a bit bloody hard. The grabbing of the jersey and yanking it like it was a dog collar.
Yeah.
I think that's what riled him up into the old Mitch Robinson-esque, not a mouthguard throw, but a jersey throw. Pretty funny, that's the kind of thing, it's good after the season that he's had for him to get his moment. It'll probably, if other clubs are trying to chase him, probably tack on another bloody 100K to his wage or something like that.
Well, I did see, I just read this morning, West Coast have got a 4-year deal in front of Dev at the moment. And we've also got a deal in front of him as well, but not sure the length and all that sort of stuff. You'd imagine it'd be less money-wise. And obviously we know playing opportunities are going to be different at both clubs, but with Ashy missing a good portion of next year as well, it probably means that Dev has got a spot in the 22 at least for the first 5 to 10 rounds of next year, depending. But the good news throughout the week, Froggy Lester, king of the 1-year deal, signs another one, and Big O with a 2-year extension. So that's exciting stuff as well. It's probably just Dev and Kai Lohman are the sort of two that are on watch of, hopefully we can hold on to these guys.
Yeah, I saw someone put up a list a couple of weeks ago of sort of, do you sign on, do you stay, do you delist sort of thing. And yeah, it is interesting because I don't think with the Fletcher and the Ashcroft purchasing in the draft last year that we're kind of left with too much going forward, are we?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Reese will be out of contract at the end of this year, and I would imagine that he'll either get traded or delisted. Tom Fullerton probably the same as well. So, but I mean, clearly, Reese isn't in our planning, and we'll talk about the twos later. He had a monster game, but he's clearly not in our planning. I mean, we've got Ashley to come back, and there's others in front of him with JL and Dev, sort of those fringe players that that Fags prefers, and then we've also got another Ashcroft coming at the end of next year as well that you would imagine would probably slot somewhere around the 22.
Yeah, so I was sort of more getting at what our draft picks are looking like at the moment, because I think we might have traded them. We've traded our first Rick. First Rick. We have not traded Eric Hipwood, who is our quintessential first Rick. We've traded our first pick to the Bulldogs, I think, care of the Dunkley deal.
Yep.
And also our second round. But we also received one from Geelong. So, yeah, there's probably not a lot of youth infusion coming.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
But that can be something that, maybe someone like Dev Rob or even a Jackson Pryor can kind of look at and go, well, there's not going to be other elements of competition spots going in. And when you look at the kind of two players that have been dropped, like I still see sort of Dev Rob as a bit of a longer term replacement for Dane Zorko. So
yeah,
maybe that's not quite right, but if I was him, I'd be eyeballing that situation. So
yeah, I get that, but also at 2021, you're probably not thinking that that far in advance or that maturely. You're probably just going, ooh, money, ooh, game opportunities, yes, please. Ooh, we get to be home closer to my family and friends and stuff as well. So it remains to be seen. I'm still sort of got my fingers crossed for Dev at least. I could, if Priz leaves, I'm not going to be that heartbroken. And it will be a shame to see if Reece does...
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I am. It will be a shame to see if Reece leaves, but a la sort of Ben Keys, I wouldn't mind seeing him go play elsewhere and play good footy as well. Like, I think he deserves that.
I could see Matho going to Geelong, given their absolute nightmarish contest work. So, and back home.
Yeah, I reckon we might delist him and he'll get picked up as a delisted free agent. Probably similar to Ben Keys as well, actually.
Second half of that game,
yeah,
pretty. Yeah, it's kind of more or less much the same. Like you said earlier on, third quarter, Collingwood, they put the pressure on and they got within, I think, 4 points. But we had some pretty clutch shots at goal two by the Brisbane Rick, as I think I called him before, and a arrow gun barrel meter ruler straight perfect kick by Link McCarthy.
Yes.
And that just gave us a bit of breathing room going into three-quarter time. So it was interesting to just see us hit those set shots and just, it all kind of worked.
It was, and that's, as I said, the most pleasing thing about this game is they came hard, they played bloody blistering footy for that period of time in that third quarter, and I'm sure it went through all Brisbane fans' mind of, like this is where we have faltered, especially over the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks, fading late in games. But then that fourth quarter is the footy we've been screaming for during fourth quarters. So really fantastic to see, and hopefully a sign of things to come. Obviously, still one more game to go against the Saints that are playing really good footy at the moment too.
Yeah, it was definitely good, particularly after I'd been very negative after the Melbourne game, just of play our own style. We play a control game, try and control the game. Don't play into our own weakness, which is sort of, inside 50, defensive 50, ground ball gets and stuff like that. And they just didn't do that. They put on 5 goals. I was a bit aggrieved to see Collingwood kick 100 points, but that's just like the 3 figures, whatever. Yeah. It happened. But it's just, the last quarter, they were absolutely under the pump. And, you could have completely given the way that Collingwood's sort of last quarters and our last quarters have been throughout the year, you could have almost swapped the teams and not known any better. But very impressive stuff. They looked like they were enjoying themselves as well. Like there was an element of freedom. They weren't as tense as they've been in kind of the last 3 weeks. Yeah. Or the last, last month or whatever. So
Fags touched on that in his post-match as well, that the 2 6-day breaks with the travel to Perth in amongst all that as well, that it had sort of taken a toll on the guys, and there just did seem to be a little bit of a relief in this one as well. So the talking point from the second half is the McCreary dump on Motti, who's got himself a week for that tackle. I don't think anyone's totally surprised by that, I guess, at this point.
It's fine. I've talked about, for a tackle that wasn't a Brisbane tackle, the Will Day one on Brad Close, I've talked about that, and that was the only comparable one they had, and I'm like, that is so different.
Yeah.
The fact that got 2 weeks and this got 1 week does not compute, because that was a single motion, this is 2. I don't care. Whatever. Give it a week. The other one should have been 1 week as well. But it's not comparable. Like, it's not the same tackle. And if that's all you've got, pretty weird. That to me was a 2-motion one, and it could have been prevented. Wilmot didn't flop. He had his legs swept. It's like, lucky boy, Wilmot.
Yes, very much so.
If you've got a mate that loves the Lions, tell them to get the podcast into their ear holes.
All right, votes.
You first, please.
All right, Neil, Pendlebury, Cameron. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
I would, and I have.
Yeah.
And I'll do it again.
It's fair enough. I'm going Neil the 3, Rayner the 2, and Hipwood the 1.
Fair enough.
Actually, no, let's change that. Let's go Neil, Rayner, and Kadeem Coleman, because I thought that was Kadeem Coleman's best game for the year.
He makes such a difference coming back into the team.
Yeah. His kicking is, like, in terms of field kicking, I think is the best, if not the best, like, top 5 in the AFL. You can always tell, like, the trajectory of his kick. That, like, it's all, like, it all makes sense. Like, you're like, wow, he's kicked that really high. He's like a Wilmot style. But then it'll drop perfectly in a hole behind a dude. And he's done it on purpose. Or he'll hit, like, the flat, like, sizzler. And, yeah, like, I could just watch him kick forever.
Yeah.
Because, like, everything is so meticulous.
And he seems to put in little to no effort. That set shot he had from, around about the 50, just sort of walked in, couple of steps, and I can't remember who said it in the comms, but just timed it. I think it was Richo, actually. Just timed the ball so well.
Yeah, there was one similar in preseason where he kind of kicked a 48-meter snap, and it like went 20 meters past the goals, and you're like, what the hell is that? That's not possible. But I guess if you can just get everything to sort of snap all at once, then it's pretty good for us.
He's got it figured out. So hopefully he can stay on the park. As I said, really good to see him back, and had a baby throughout the week or last fortnight as well during his time off. So fantastic for him and his partner there, obviously.
Same birthday as yours, or what?
All right, so that's the votes. The 2s, in sort of stark contrast to the way we have been playing. We did the old switcheroo, and we found ourselves 6 goals down in the second quarter, and then mounted the comeback. The last quarter, we went in about 3 goals down, 2.5, 3 goals down, and pegged it back. It was sort of like a draw for a lot of the last quarter, and we've managed to scrape over the line by 2 points against Casey.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on, but I did hear, like, on my way back from the airport, like, they were talking about Grundy, and they're like, it's halftime. Casey and Grundy's had like 10 hit-outs and done nothing, and I was like, yep, he's already wearing that teal, baby.
Yeah, it's looking more and more likely that will be the case.
How long ago did I call that? 10 weeks? 8 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
Year?
We finished with
ahead of the curve.
Finished with 36 hit-outs, 16 kicks, didn't trouble the scoreboard. So, yeah. Reece Matheson led all comers, 38 touches, 5 tackles, 7 clearances. So he's had himself a monster game. So, should we get struck down with way too many injuries in a final series, he might get the call-up, but let's cross our fingers that doesn't happen. Other than that, even contribution on the scoreboard. Henry Smith kicked 2, Reveal kicked 2, Lohman kicked 2, Buzzer kicked 2. Tunstall had himself a good game. 16 touches, a goal, 7 tackles. So that's some good numbers there. Cockatoo with his 19 and 1. A couple of clearances, 6 tackles as well. So he's had a good game too.
Yeah, I think it's just he's the one that's never going to really happen, is it?
It appears that way. Yeah,
it'd be cool, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
someone probably should tell us that, like, he's like a Cat B rookie or something, and it's like never been possible anyway, and we're just idiots. But
as we sort of ruminated about last week on the podcast, and as we also forecast that by the time the podcast came out, we would sort of know what happened to Daniel Rich, and yeah, he redid the same hammy, so it looks to be a 4-weeker. So with that, one of the questions that we did come through on Twitter from Zig, Daniel Rich looks set to retire. How would you feel about him going around again another year, or would that just be selfish at this point? I feel he's earned it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yes, I'd say he's going to retire. I don't think it would be selfish, but I just don't see him sticking around at this point. We've got a huge amount of halfbacks now. I think Kadeem Coleman has taken his spot. He's surpassed him with his ball use. He's he's not the quickest bloke alive, Kadeem Coleman, but he's definitely quicker than Daniel Rich. If Daniel Rich isn't getting into the team this year, I don't see that changing next year, and he'll just be playing 2. So I think that's probably it for Richie, unfortunately. As much as I hate to say, because he's been a favourite player of mine for a long, long time, and a long time servant of the Brisbane Lions as well. So it'll be sad, but I think that is it for Richie.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can see that is him going onto the rookie list if he wanted to do another year, and like whether it's with a pathway to do coaching or whether it's the pathway of helping the club, sort of in a way that, like, I'm not going to say that he would have like a career renaissance like Leicester has this year, but I don't think Leicester would have expected to be playing first team this time last year. Whether he wants to go back and play as captain of the twos or whether that sort of thing is, attractive to him, that'd be the only way. But then what's the point? Is he going to end up having like a farewell game or anything like that? Go around the Gabba on Saturday, and that'd be that for me.
Yeah, I'd say that'll probably be the case. Before we get into any more questions, because we have got a few this week, changes you're going to make?
Well, the only outs possible is the Link McCarthy with the calf and the Archie.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird one, really. Like, it's a weird one as to whether they, the logical thing would be probably Link out for Kyle Oman.
Yeah, that's what I'd be saying. Yeah,
and then if you're looking at Cal Archie, do they throw Wilmot up onto the wing and then bring in a Jackson Pryor? That would be my only thought.
Yeah, you're probably right. That one's a little bit more open. The Archie one. If you were looking to bring in a designated winger, then Sharpie's put together some good weeks in the VFL as well. He could come in.
That's a good point. I tended to forget that mulleted fellow.
You'd imagine whoever's coming in is literally only coming in for this last home and away game and probably not in finals sort of thinking. And I think regardless of how Link and Archie pull up, you give them the week off anyway and make sure that they're cherry ripe for a qualifying final. So Sharpie is one. Noah Answorth is back playing footy after that facial fracture. I'm not sure if this was his first game back, just gone. Potentially throw him in as a bit of a wild card, but I don't think he's got enough sort of fitness base or footy time behind him.
Yeah, look, my thoughts for Pryor was just kind of like most recent in.
Yeah.
And then that way it kind of gives that sort of defensive flexibility. So if you lose a half back, you've got another one ready-made to drop back in terms of Wilmot, and you can restructure that way.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I guess just restructuring defensively is probably arguably more important than restructuring forward of the ball, given the amount of talent that we've got. You lose Link, but Rayner, Bailey, you've kind of got ready-made forward mid forwards to kind of go forward. Zorko as well. So yeah, that for me, sub. I don't know, like sub could be forward, could be JL. Like maybe JL was just kind of the shot in the arm that the group needed.
I wouldn't mind saying Reece for the same reason. I mean, I don't think he's
just as a bit of a farewell, given he's been a bit of a club cult hero almost.
Yeah, that, and I think he would offer just as much as JL plus some speed. And the way he's obviously had a bit of time off with that pretty serious hamstring throughout the year, but he's had a couple of really good weeks in the twos. So I think he's genuinely earned a call up. He's obviously not going to be starting mid, so as the sub, it couldn't hurt. If that's where he wants his insurance fags in the midfield, then Reece is just as good as JL for me.
I agree, and it would be kind of cool to see him come off the bench and at least sort of, if he is going to move on.
Yeah.
Because I think he is a player that there was a lot expected of him early on, probably whenever he kind of was drafted, I think 2016 or whatever. And he did show a great deal in a pretty bleak time. And he was always fun to watch. So that's a good shout. And I think it would be pretty cool to see him run around for the last time.
Yeah, I think so too. So it'll just be that handful of players. I think Lohman is probably the most, I'm probably 90% sure on him coming in for Link. And then it's sort of Sharp, Pryor, the toss-up for Archie there. And then who knows what Fags will do with the sub. But it would be nice to see Reece in that position.
You reckon now the floodgates opened up for Kyle Lohman kicking his first goal from the goal square, he'll kick 100 this week?
Sure.
He finally got given one after all those trying to blow the house down, and now he's just going to be goal machine.
Wouldn't mind it. Wouldn't mind it.
Well, it's just good when you're kind of like having to try and. Well, it's not good that you're trying to make changes for injured players, but like, I said for a long time we sort of stumbled across our best 22, and we have, and to beat the top team. I don't think that Collingwood are necessarily the best team, but
especially not with
team, so.
Not with their players out at the moment.
Yeah, but we move on.
Like the show? Make sure to follow and subscribe on your favourite podcast platforms.
Got a bit of question time, maybe?
Yeah, we got a few questions come through this week, which is weird after a win, but a lot of them are in the similar vein, and they sort of revolve around our premiership credentials. The political loser, do you think the Lions have the ability to win the premiership? They have proved they can win away from home and even play at the MCG. In brackets, since we were the better team against Melbourne, I agree. And we have a really good chance to take up second spot and get 2 home finals. I'm just going to put a few questions together here because they're similar. Our mate Brad, are we actually a sneaky chance this year? Should we be worried about the Saints this week? How do I book grand final tickets?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we won't comment on how to book tickets because that's normally a bit of an absolute nightmare. So
yeah, what I will say to you, Brad, is the one time I sort of got ahead of myself and started looking into flights down to Melbourne for that weekend, the next day we got smacked by the sun. So I'm not doing that again. Delvis, are you going to organise a BL Fancast corporate box on grand final day?
Are you out of your mind? I've got about $3, man. Like, it'd be crowdfunded at best. I'm going to be like hoping, because if we get to the grand final and I want a ticket, if I don't get a ticket, the onus is on you, the listener, to give me a ticket. So,
and Lockie Hudson on Instagram, is it too early to book our flights to Melbourne for the grand final? Yes, Lockie. Yes, it is. For the reasons I stipulated before. I looked into it briefly once, just at sort of how much it would cost, and we got smacked by the sun. So, as I said, not doing it again. So, a lot of these questions are, all right, now that we've put ourselves in the box seat, because as I said, a lot of talk was around that game against the Pies and how much that meant for us come September, setting ourselves up to not leave Brisbane for the next 4 or 5 weeks and only having to go back to Melbourne for grand final day if everything sort of goes well. Can we pull it off?
Is that the question you're asking me now?
I guess a lot of those questions you can sort of boil down to, all right, now that we've put ourselves in the position we're in, can we do it?
So also looking at it, I mean, looking at the other top 3 teams, so we've beaten Collingwood 6 times in a row, albeit quite a few of them have been at home.
Yeah, 4 out of those 6 at home, 2 at Marvel. Never at the MCG.
Yeah, neither here nor there. We've still beaten them 6 times. That's a big mental block for them. Melbourne, we've beaten twice in the last 3, and the one was the 1-point loss. And one of those games was at the MCG.
Yep.
We've also beaten Port 5 out of the last 6 games. So if we're playing Melbourne at the MCG, if we're playing Collingwood at the MCG, I think we've got parity, if not a mental edge. And Port Adelaide is basically an away game for both teams, so it's inconsequential. So it's really in our hands. It
really is. A couple of curveballs. I mean, it looks likely that we'll be playing Port at the Gabba week 1 of the finals. That sort of seems to be reading the tea leaves. If the results go the way that I guess people think they should, and that's us beating the Saints at the Gabba, which is no guarantee. It would be such a Brisbane thing to do to lose to the Saints this week, by the way.
Not even go there.
It looks likely
not even go there.
It looks likely that we'll have Port at the Gabba week 1 of the finals. And as I've been saying all year, I'd love another crack at Port after that round 1 dismal performance. And I'm sure every one of the players that played in that round 1 game would be feeling the same.
Yeah, there's an element of Port, just their midfield kind of is a bit exactly the opposite of what our midfield is, which scares me. I think behind and ahead of the ball, we match up extremely well, but it's a bit scary. Like, I mean, to see the way that Horne-Francis was just like bursting out of stoppage and that sort of thing is just like, oh man, who's going with that? But it was our first game of the season with a very cobbled together midfield, so who knows? I would love to see it. I think the Lions shouldn't really fear playing any team, and I think that of the fact that it's kind of like you got people saying, oh well, if Port Adelaide win, because I think they played before Melbourne, that Melbourne's rest Petrarca, rest Gawn, because you'd rather play Collingwood at the MCG. I mean, if you're Melbourne, you probably would, wouldn't you? You'd rather play at home.
I'd say so. And the last time those two played, obviously King's birthday, fantastic game. Melbourne walked away with the win there as well. It all depends on who's coming back for Collingwood as well the first few weeks of the finals. Are they going to rush Dacos back? You'd imagine Moore will be back. Murphy should be back to go in Hill, obviously.
Yeah, I think. But to answer the fundamental question, yeah, like the team should be playing in a grand final.
Should be, yeah.
Barring and there's not, you can't bank on anything in footy, but we are somehow, despite this at times frustrating, fumbly, nonsensical mess of a season, we've bundled our way into second place.
I know.
Like, I think I called it maybe when we lost to Adelaide or Hawthorn that we'd thrown away the top two, just based statistically on like how the ladder has looked in seasons gone by. The idea that you can be sitting second on the ladder with 6 losses. There are years 6 losses doesn't get you in the top 4. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, the false economy, and it's really funny the fact that the West Coast beat Bulldogs, but it's really funny this false economy of having these teams down the bottom and having such a gulf has just created I don't think we'll see a season like this in terms of how spread it is and how the competition. It was a really, really big shame what happened the other night with Adelaide, just for this round.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I mean we've spoken about the top 4, and we've seen, especially over the last couple of months, I guess when the spotlight intensifies on the top 4, that each one of those clubs have got holes. I mean, Collingwood, we've seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They've leaked 100 points 3 weeks in a row or something like that. We obviously know where we can be torn apart. Port, yeah, they won 13 in a row, then lost 4. Back on the winners list the last couple of weeks. Melbourne, they just can't seem to find a forward line that really works for them. There's teams in the bottom 8, like Carlton. I'm more worried about Carlton than I am about some of the top 4 teams at the moment.
Yeah, it is an odd one. I like the amount of form for Carlton and also Sydney. It's like, where the hell did Sydney come from? But I think you've just got to look at it and go, teams don't win. It's happened once from 5 to 8. So more for me if that happens. But you're looking at it being the 98%. It doesn't happen. So
yeah.
It's just kind of not worth thinking about until it happens. So, were there any other questions, sir?
Yeah, we got a few more.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Yes, absolutely. Here we go. Miller time. What ridiculous thing are you guys willing to commit to if we win the flag?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I can beat 2003, which is running as a child during the parade in front of the cars to get Lee Matthews' signature and interrupting a news interview.
Nice.
So I don't think I'm topping that.
What I will say to you, Miller time, is let me know what you want us to do, because if it means we win a grand final, there's probably not a lot of things I wouldn't do. So, yeah, I'm open to suggestions.
He's Took Miller time and he wants a big old squirrel grip.
If that's what it costs, that's what it costs.
Thank God we're not in the same city.
Dylan makes a great point. Not so much a question, but it's more, I think we need to reflect on how big Danaher has been this past month, almost as if he realises that this is it. And it's a good shout, Dylan. He's had a great month. He, not single-handedly, but when we needed to crawl over the line against Freo, it was a couple of big tackles laid from him that got us over the line. He took that mark on the wing against Adelaide, and he's just been a really consistent performer. Over the weekend as well. Actually, 2 moments in that game. One, Charlie with a massive spoil down in the back line, and he actually revved the Harley for that instead of any of his goals. And I think Danaher took a big sort of contested mark down in the back 50 as well when Collingwood had a bit of a run on as well. So Danaher, yeah, and he's set shots on the weekend.
His name's not Charlie Kerno, so no one's going to give a shit about that. So
that's fine.
Do it.
It's probably the way we prefer it, and it's definitely the way Joe Danaher prefers it as well, you'd have to think.
Well, how funny that we've had sort of two players that we were they're a bit luxury forwards in terms of him and Hipwood, very early on. I know I championed pretty hard Hipwood's work rate in the Bulldogs game, saying man, that guy works really hard, nothing's really working. For them to basically become workman-like forwards,
yeah,
is so weird, but also awesome. And I couldn't be more kind of happy for them because, yeah, it's almost like the Joe show is a bit less.
Yeah,
it's a bit more confined. It's not sort of between 5 and 10, it's like 7 and 8.5.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of more, there's more consistent kind of effort. So I am all for that because you can get the splash of color coming from all over the place. And you know what? They chipped in for 6 goals between them, I think.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. They've changed a lot of perspectives, be it internal and external, I think, this season.
Matt Hudson on Instagram, is Conor McKenna the most creative kicker in the AFL? He'd have to be close.
I'd say no, but he's close.
Yeah.
I was saying watching that game, it's really cool when you watch players that you know for one thing do completely not that thing. For example, if I said to you, I'm like, you know, how's Conor McKenna with his hands above his head? What would you say?
I would say I couldn't tell you.
But he had like 2 or 3 moments of like spoils and overhead marks in that game. And you're like, damn, man, like it's good that you can do that because it's pretty important. But I just, you know, you never think about it. But his kicking, yes, I agree. It's very highly creative, but it's almost like you sort of expect it. So.
All right, and the last one, again, not a question, but it's a bit of a task for us. Rank these from most annoying to least annoying. 1, irrational Collingwood supporters. 2, the biased Channel 7 commentary, in brackets from Brian Taylor. And 3, free kick Collingwood.
Well, I mean, the Collingwood fans don't really matter, so that's definitely 3 plus also be 1, so they were angry. So,
yeah,
the least annoying. I think the free kick Collingwood thing was just a bit like, it really did give them a hell of a lot of momentum in the third quarter. Because I think I looked at it and there was 7 free kicks to 1 in that quarter. And yeah, the commentary is a bit shameless at this point in time, but we've kind of known that.
Yeah.
And I wish there were pathways to listen to SEN, but there are not really. But you know, you can just tell even the way like the first Archie goal was adjudicated versus the first Johnny Noble goal. It's like,
yeah.
So what? According to you, Brayshaw, the game hasn't begun until Johnny Noble has kicked a goal. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah. Whereas Archie, like textbook crumb goal on the non-preferred to get us going, and it was just a Archie. It's like, okay, thanks, Brian. A little bit more oomph wouldn't go astray. But then when Noble, to be fair, great goal from Johnny Noble.
Yeah, fair, fine. But I mean, like, it didn't get the game started.
Yeah.
Like, you know, here we go. Like, shut the hell up, Brayshaw. You're the least talented of your 3 people with your name that anyone knows.
Unfortunately, it's just what we've got to deal with as interstate.
So yeah, I guess it's 3. I don't know. Figure that out.
Yeah,
Whomever's question it was. So it's
and that is it. That's it for questions and the like.
Make sure you follow us on socials. Just search for BL Fancast.
Hey, I did put up a post on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now on Instagram. A couple of double passes to give away to the footy this week, Brisbane and Saints at the Gabba. So if you head to both of those platforms, Instagram and Twitter right now, you'll see a post there for you to do various things with. Instagram, it is going to be make sure you like it and tag a couple of friends in the post, and then on Twitter we want you to like it and retweet it or re-exit just to hopefully spread the word of the podcast, and you'll go into the draw to win one of 2 double passes to the game this weekend.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's on my birthday as well, so have a celebrate for me.
Okay, I think I can manage that.
Also Ryan Lester's birthday, so
Frog.
I think it's like, yeah, it's weird because I don't think I have any like famous people ever. Because you know, like when you're about 15, you're like, who's born on my birthday? And never anyone good.
Yeah, I think
mine was like Ryan Lester, AFL player. I'm like, why has he got a Wikipedia page? That's odd.
I think I share a birthday with Miley Cyrus, and I think Daniel Bradshaw's birthday was a day after mine.
That doesn't count, and nor does it matter.
Correct.
Because that's like me being like, yeah, Mark Webber's is like the day after mine, and also my middle name's Mark, and my last name's Webber, but it's spelled differently. Like, who gives a shit? I like that we're like, we got to be quick with this one, and now we're talking about, I'm literally Googling my birthday.
All right, well, while you do that, I'm going to talk to you about my nostalgic player of the week.
Just to rub salt in the wound, Sandy Roberts, the whole night, called me Big Jeff Brown. Jeff, did he? Oh, no.
Bit of a weird one for you this week. Not a huge amount of nice memories attached to this fella, but I do have a funny story accompanying him. Our nostalgic player of the week, and it goes with the theme of us playing St Kilda this week. It is Billy Longer.
Okay, yep.
The fella that we picked up in the end of 2011. I think he was a top tenner, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was a high draft pick.
Yeah.
And he was another one that...
Pick number 8. That was one of the drafts that was absolutely dominated by GWS. GWS had the first 5 picks. They had pick 7. Then they had 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14.
Gee, how good to be a team that probably finished bottom of the table.
Yeah.
And we're left with that, shit show left. Who was number 1 that year?
Big John O'Patten.
Well,
we all know what happened to him.
Pick him.
Yeah. Cornelio, Dom Tyson, Will Hoskin, Elliott, Matt Bunteen. Chad Wingard was pick number 6, who went to Port. Nick Haynes at number 7. We got Billy Longer, Tomlinson, Liam Sumner, and Toby Green. Toby Green at pick number 11 that year. That's probably the one. We also
he played 9 games, I guess. Billy Longer.
Yeah, before he went off to the Saints. So here's my little funny-ish story about Billy Longer, and the reason I bring you up, apart from the fact that we're playing St Kilda this week. But I do remember after he got traded to St Kilda, and I was, however old at the time, would have been 23 or something like that. And I thought, you know what? Time to vent my frustrations on social media, like any irrational sports follower would. And I do remember he uploaded a photo on Instagram. He just got his legs waxed or shaved or something like that. And he was shouting at the business that did it or a friend or whoever. And I thought it was going to be really funny. And like a lot of people on social media do now. And I said, oh, good one, mate. Did you get your vagina waxed too? Except I spelt your wrong. I left out the Y. So it said, did you get our vagina waxed? And
the collective vagina.
And then Billy Longer decided to chirp back and said, well, mate, I can't speak for you, but yeah, they did a good job. Cheers. And I thought, you know what? That'll do me. I'm going to put the keyboard away now and probably just accept this fella's moved on and that we pissed away a top 10 pick on him.
He retired from keyboard battling, eh?
Yep. And that's fine. I'm just a mere observer from a long distance now as people throw feces in the comments section at each other.
It is oddly calm, isn't it? Yeah, well, that is definitely nostalgic. I thought you were going to sort of maybe go on the side of you can get that done with Nick Riewoldt.
Yeah, no, I wasn't that creative, evidently.
Down in St Kilda Beach or whatever. When your shoulder pops out, we'll get Mal Michael on you.
There we go. It's been brought back for how many weeks in a row?
7. Nah, I'm surprised. I mean, yeah, I think I said last week, if it was me, I would have picked Nick Riewoldt just out of spite, Seinfeld style. So. All
right, so that's it. Nostalgic play for the week, Billy Longer and his waxed vagina. A couple of the big talking points from the footy this week. Obviously, Ben Keys, as Gillan McLaughlin has confirmed himself, has been robbed of not only a goal, but potentially a win to the Adelaide Crows and a finals berth for that club, which is... I haven't listened to any of Jared Waitley yet this morning, but I can only imagine he is teeing off on the score review system right now.
What are we going to do about it?
I mean, as Adelaide said, not much you can do. Just have to accept the decision and move on and focus on 2024. But that is, something's going to have to change. So that should never, ever happen.
Yeah, it does seem odd because, I don't know about you, but is it only the goal umpires that can call for a review, or can the on-field umpires also call?
The on-field umpires can as well. Yeah.
Okay, so why not are we, having, with the billion umpires that we've now got, having someone sit behind the kick and watch the kick?
I don't know.
It feels like it would be quite easy.
Well, I don't think... I mean, obviously this guy has made a huge mistake and he's since been stood down and will probably, I would imagine, never goal umpire again.
I feel bad for him because, he made a mistake, but the system is designed to not allow there to be, to reduce that, the howler.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the ark's in, not So we've had two in a row. You had the Petrarca non-goal.
Yeah.
And, to me, that's not a howler. That's, hard call, we got to back the decision.
Yeah.
I think there's more wrong with the cameras that are used in terms of that. I think Snicko would have been inconsequential in this because there were players just molesting the hell out of the goal post. So that's not going to show you anything. But this was a howler. Yeah. And I can't remember when it was, or it was either 2018 or 2019 where Eric Hipwood kicked a really long goal. And the goal umpire just gave a point, and they were like, what the hell? It was a goal. And like the umpire's like, oh, yeah, like review it just in case. Like, why did that not happen? Like, I think you can tell from the reaction of the players when you've got 4 of them going into the crowd.
Well, the thing
Like-
is, Sydney got the ball in as quick as they possibly could because I think they knew they got that ball in quick, smart to basically nullify that because as we know, everything gets reviewed. But by the time the ball's back in play, it's too late. So Sydney was like, "Well, get this ball back."
But
in play.
So the points don't get reviewed. Goals get reviewed.
Right.
Points don't get reviewed. So they talked a little bit about that on First Crack last night, and Montagna kind of thought, they should be reviewing the points. It'll take 20 seconds, and then just like take the ball back at the next stoppage.
Yeah.
And then like that starts to sort of enter this like weird butterfly effect thing where you're going, well, what happens to the stats between like that lost time? It's a bit of a messy situation, but like I'm all for erring on the side of caution, but I think this guy just like completely mincemeated it. But then is there a thing where you can use it like
a captain's challenge,
decision review like in the cricket or whatever or tennis where they're like, we need to review this because like it's a howler.
Yeah.
Like you've cocked it up really badly. And that can't happen. Yeah.
And can you imagine if that had have happened to Collingwood? Same set of circumstances. They've going to miss out on finals now because of it. Can you imagine Eddie Maguire right now? He'd be absolutely blowing. Like even though they had nothing.
Well, I still feel the same way about the GWS elimination final because there was a throw out of the ruck in that final passage of play, and it's like. I think I said at the same time, I imagine if it was like Collingwood and Eddie Maguire, if there was like a very obvious throw out of the ruck, they went and that really small fella went and kicked a goal. Made a mug of your man. But but Adelaide should be. I mean, imagine if it was Port, David Koch, same sort of thing. So it's an imperfect situation that's being made more complicated than it needs to be. Like, how many stadiums are there in the AFL? You've got two in Queensland, 2 in New South Wales. You've essentially got 2 in Victoria, 2 in Tasmania, 1 in South Australia, and 1 in Perth.
Yeah.
So you got 11 stadiums.
Well, you got GMH. Throw GMHBA in there as well.
Oh, sorry, GMH. So 12.
And the occasional game up in Darwin and
yeah.
Cairns and
Whatever. You're ruining my point. Okay. Why can you not pay for 12 times 4 good cameras that are not 1 frame per second? For 20 years, you've been able to get those like grotesque super slow-mos of people and like their calf muscles like folding and bending and stuff. Like, why is it that when it goes to goal review, it's like, all right, we've also gone back into 1967 and we are now operating on 1 frame per second where the ball will travel great distances. And it's like, why? What? Like, just get like 3 iPhones. Like it's not that hard. Like the amount of money the AFL has.
I know.
For 12 times, I don't know, 8. What's that? 96 cameras. 96 cameras times 1,000. Like that's less than $100,000 that I'm sure the AFL has to solve any problem about this. Obviously not the problem we're talking about, but like far out. Like
I was wrong.
Just get one of the.
I thought I hadn't heard Jared Whiteley, but there he is.
Shut your goddamn mouth, man.
I get it, and it sucks. Adelaide should feel desperately aggrieved. Having said that, they had plenty of chances. They kicked a few points, like Fogarty hit the post, Tex missed a goal, Rochelle missed another goal in the lead up to that. So they had their chances, but yeah, it's poo when it comes down to that.
Yes, yeah.
The other probably big talking point from the footy this week is that the Bulldogs have lost to the Eagles and probably...
You know who's probably feeling pretty good right now? Josh Dunkley.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. And the Bulldogs, they're going to have to beat Geelong next week and hope that GWS lose or...
You never want to be relying on results to go your way.
No,
like it's never a situation you want to be in. So,
and let's be honest, if you can't beat West Coast at your own home ground, then you probably don't deserve to be playing finals anyway. And I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Beveridge, with the list he's got, that's a top 8, if not top 4 list that he's got in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty critical about certain elements of that list. You know, people like Jack McRae, like, what even is that guy? Doesn't even matter. Yeah, they're an odd one. I got a question for you just about
Yeah.
people talk about these big key forwards and stuff like that. They're like, Kerno and Mackay or whatever and Jeremy Carron. I reckon the two most in-demand players in the league at the moment should be Nick Larkey and Oscar Allen by a
Yep.
mile. By a mile. Those two, where they are and what they're doing is unbelievable, particularly Nick Larkey. I heard something about him yesterday where he's played 90-odd games. And in 9 of those games, he's kicked more than 5 goals for North Melbourne.
Yeah.
And he's the only guy there. They're not kicking it to anyone else. So he's playing on the best defender every week. And he's kicking handfuls in 10% of his games, playing for the worst team. Unreal.
Yeah, I guess you could look at that a couple of ways. Is that they've got their list is that poor that they haven't got any other options, so they have to rely on those two. Or that they are really shouldering the load of some garbage clubs, and they're doing their bit and then some to try and keep them afloat.
It'll be pretty hard. They'll do well, North Melbourne and West Coast, to kind of keep them there.
Yeah. Yeah, because
they're probably going to do it, but they'll have to really pay overs, and we've seen what paying overs can do for certain clubs with certain forwards.
Yes,
can't seem to kick straight. But aside from that, the only other thing that kind of happened in the week was just the very obvious announcement of the Hardwick thing, or the soon to be announcement of the Hardwick thing.
Well, that's literally just happened as we're recording, just after 10 o'clock Monday morning. It's been confirmed.
And that is what it is. Is he going to get Danny Daly? Is he going to get Dustin Martin? I hope Dustin Martin goes there and just eats their salary cap, because that would be so funny.
I don't know that he will. I think a win-win for both parties. Dustin Martin will get some cash for a year, but it'll be really good for marketing for the Suns, and they'll get kids through the doors.
That's true, I guess, but
6-year deal.
How interesting it was, or how interesting it is that he's announced this 2 days after Cochin and Rewalt retired, and he didn't retire them. But I still think is
yeah,
that still grates me a little bit, but whatever. Not that I care about Jack Rewalt and Trent Cochin, but to me, that would have been the club thing to do. But here we are. He's now got a new cushy job, and
6 years for Dimmer at the Suns now. It's just been confirmed.
New set of physios, I guess.
Or you imagine he might take up one with him.
But yeah, I think with their academy shot in the arm, Gold Coast is going to be pretty dangerous.
I think so.
Well, actually, so West Coast managed to solve their Harley Reid problem.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone was barracking for West Coast as much as Harley Reid was on the weekend, surely.
I still thought it was a bit of an oversight, and I understand where you're at, but if I was West Coast 2 days ago, I would have been well and truly trading pick 1 for pick 4 and pick 17 or something like that.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think a club like Gold Coast would have been perfect to trade that to, because they need their draft currency and things like that. So, that's all kind of a cow's opinion now. But yeah, Hardwick, I don't like it. It makes Gold Coast even more unlikable, which is probably going to add a bit more spice. So here's to a real rivalry going forward.
We haven't really touched on the game again this weekend against the Saints, but they've been playing some good footy. They made a mess of Richmond 2 weeks ago, and their pressure has been really, really good the last couple of weeks. They did a number on Geelong as well, and they've officially ruled out of the finals. Kind of good. It was pointed out in Discord from our mate Rob that, and I was in the same thought process of going for St Kilda on the weekend. A win for them means they had less on the line. They're now officially locked into finals, so they got less on the line when they come up against us. So hopefully that's subconsciously helps them take the foot off the pedal. We've still got top 2 to fight for, so there is still a little bit on the line. But as I said,
they've got a home final to play for. That's one of the beautiful / frustrating elements of our game, is just that there's always something more you can kind of grab. So if they win, then they get a home final. That's what they're looking at. And we've had a pretty bloody difficult run at the end of this season. Gotta say.
Yeah.
It's been pretty brutal.
But good. I'd much prefer that. Some tough games leading into finals, a week off, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, if we get the win this weekend, back at the Gabba for a qualifying final against Port Adelaide.
This is the blueprint right there. So I think St Kilda, I think their midfield is a bit suspect. It's workmanlike, but it's not outstanding. and they as you said made a message along. We also did that pretty hard, albeit with little Ashley running around there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think, will Max King take Ben King's lead and go for Harris, or do they not talk telepathically? And will it be Jack Payne that goes to him? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean,
we got enough quality to win the day and to win the game, and I think their style of football might get exposed a little bit on the sort of our patch. So
I think so for sure as well. I think one thing for sure is they will put in some sort of plan for Harris, because was it last time that Harris got 7 intercept marks at halftime? So, and then they made the switch to there. It was a Caminiti that started playing, or Mitch Owens.
Philip, I think Caminiti was suspended. So
Mitch Owens or someone.
His bop to my least favourite Murphy. So
yeah. So they did make a change after halftime. I think, Mitch Owens started playing from in front or something to that effect, and he didn't end up going on to take the 10 or whatever it was, the record number of marks he was aiming for. So they did make the switch. Then you'd have to imagine they're not going to just bomb it to Harris Andrews again.
Yeah, well, I mean, you never know. Watching First Crack last night, they were very brutal on Sam De Koning, saying like his drop off from last year to this year, and it's like, it's understandable, but they're like, what's he doing? He's like zoning off and da 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 da, and it's like, dude, every single one of those kicks is no pressure, like unopposed, coming in, like you're not going to impact that. It's like the lack of the forwards that are causing all this issue. So we need to get to their midfield and put pressure on, and their kicks inside 50 will not work, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But that's sort of more of that, we should win. What an odd journey to get to where we want it to be.
I know, crazy. Very excited for what's to come. All right, well, that wraps up this week. We'll be back after the game against the Saints. Don't forget, head to our Instagram page and Twitter. Just search for BL Fancast. There's some double passes to give away to the game this week. I'll draw that Wednesday night, sort of 6 p.m. jobbo. So you got a couple.
We want to do like a I kind of want to do like, I might roll a dice or something like that.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But in the meantime, just head over to our socials and get your name in the hat.
See you, mate.
All right, hooroo.
But I do want to leave you on one thing. You little beauty!